Hello. I'm going to be telling you what I read in November and December. Does anyone care at this point what I read in November and December? Probably not, but I do, and I want to tell you. I didn't do a November reading wrap-up because I read like 3 things. Truly. And so I decided to wait till after December, but that also means that like at this point, I just filmed my favorites video. That's going to go out. Like this is going to be out by like mid-January. And sorry about that. What am I supposed to do? Anyway, I'm going to tell you what I read in... Oh my gosh, I like forgot the month of the year. Just sing the song like I'm back in kindergarten. November and December. Okay, first thing I read in December was Out on a Limb by Hannah Bottom Young. This book slaps. This book is so good. This is a little cute KU rom-com. It follows a girl whose name I don't remember, and a guy whose name I don't remember. And essentially on Halloween, they have like a one-night stand hookup situation. It's just supposed to be like for fun, for giggles. And unfortunately, she gets pregnant. Or unfortunately, it turns out she decides to keep the pregnancy. And she's like, you don't need to be involved, but like I'm keeping this, like this is something I would like. And he's like, no, absolutely not. Like I want to be involved in this human's life. And he winds up moving her into his house because he has like a house, he has room for her, and it'll be easier for him to like see her. If she's in the house, her apartment's kind of like yucky, and it just like follows their romance from there. Like she's already pregnant with his baby, but like they're not in a relationship. But he's like the sweetest gem of a man on the planet. Like he's the sweetest man. He's the sweetest man. He's so nice. She's so lovely. She's overcoming like some personal insecurities. He's also overcoming stuff, and it's just like so wholesome. And I particularly loved this book because both, oh my gosh, I remembered one of their names is Wynn. Wynn is the guy's name. I cannot remember the girl's name. But our girl has like a limb difference. Like her arm didn't fully develop. And so she has a like smaller and underdeveloped arm and hand on one side. And the man is an amputee. One of his legs has been amputated. I don't remember why. And so both of them have like limb differences. And the author herself has a limb difference. Her limb difference is very similar to the heroine of our story. She has a hand that looks very similar. And I think it's in the author's note. She talks about how she like never really thought much of her limb difference in terms of what it limited her to do until she became a parent. And they talk about like how, you know, being a mother takes like all hands. You wish you were an octopus and you had 8 hands. And she was worried about like how she would be as a mom with this limb difference. And you can just tell the like tenderness and care of, this is one of those stories where you're like, oh my gosh, this is why own voices stories are so important. Because I think she was able to portray so much of her own experience and her own like emotion around her disability in such like a beautiful and tender way. And the story was like not like overly focused on that. It was just like an element of the story, and I just thought it was absolutely so beautifully done. I loved it. I haven't read anything else by this author. I don't know if this was her first book or if she's had other books out. I think she has other books out. I'm clicking on her on the story graph, so yeah, she has a bunch of books out, and I feel like this one just is the one that like took off for her. But I absolutely loved it. I just thought like the balance of like, I just like thought it was like really sweet, really tender. Next, I read A Fire in the Flesh. Again, if you've been with me, I Am Being Held Captive by Jennifer L. Armentrout in the From Blood and Ash series. If you are not in this series, don't get in here. It's a trap. It's a trap. She'll get you. I love these books despite myself sometimes. This is the spin-off series. The spin-off prequel series in the From Blood and Ash series that follows, like, the gods. And we're following this girl named Sarah and Nikotos, the god of death. And their, like, little romance. This is the 3rd book in the series. I don't know. What do you want me to say to you? What do you want me to say to you? I'm going to finish all of them. If, again, you're a close watcher of this channel, you'll know that I absolutely like had a little bit of a vendetta against Jennifer L. Armentrout for forcing me to read Castiel's very boring perspective on From Blood and Ash as a book, because she did force me to do that in a way that I didn't think was fair. And normally I don't talk too much smack about books on this channel, but I'm here to talk smack about that one. But this one was really, it was good. I really actually am like, originally I was kind of a little bit annoyed at this spinoff. I was like, I just want to focus on Castiel and Poppy because they're the loves of my life, and I just like love their romance. I love reading about them, but they have really grown on me. They've really grown on me. The second one I think is the strongest of the series in my opinion, but this one, we get a lot more backstory. We spend a lot of the book, this is the real bummer of this one, we spend a lot of the book with the two of them apart. They are separated for reasons. And we're also getting like a lot of backstory. This is very much, you could tell, like a setup novel for the next one. And so that was like a little bit difficult. Also, this is another little baby gripe I have with Jennifer L. Armentrout, is I find her books difficult to jump back into if you haven't really recently been in the world. So like I hadn't been in the like for a Flesh and Fire world, and we like really opened like in the middle of a scene, and I was confused. It took me like a while to like get my bearings. She's definitely not one that it's like easy to pick up a novel if you haven't read her in a while, you know? Okay. Next, I read A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. Obviously, I was sucked up in the Hunger Games hype, like everyone else. I wanted to see the movie, mostly because I heard the Olivia Rodrigo song, where she's like, and I'm in the trees and I'm in the breeze, my footsteps on the ground, and it was really good. And I said, I need this, and then I started listening to the soundtrack, and this music from the movie slaps. Like, it's so good. Like, the book adds a lot of gorgeous elements in terms of, like, internal monologues. We really get to experience Snow as this, like, figure. But the movie, the music is amazing. So good. Adds such a fun layer. So, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, I listened to this as an audiobook, is following young Snow. So he's like 17, I believe. So Snow is the president in the Hunger Games trilogy, the president of Pan Am, the one like running the Hunger Games. And we kind of figure out like his origins. We follow him at 17 for the 10th Hunger Games, which the Hunger Games look very different in this. We're still like really in a very close to the war post-war Pan Am, and we're seeing the repercussions of the war on the capital itself in a much more tangible way, where in the Hunger Games we're like 74th, 75th annual is what's happening, and so it's a little bit further removed. We're also not in the capital as much as like a citizen, because Katniss obviously lives in District 12. Anyway, so we're getting to explore that, and I think the best part of this, I listened or watched the video that Books and Leo did about the different political philosophies that this book captures. And we know, like, that was clearly Suzanne's intention, because the, like, epigraphic quote at the beginning of the novel follows, like, three dudes and different political philosophers. And I thought it was really fascinating, and really, especially if I think this book is really great if you want to delve in a little bit deeper and think about, like, why the Hunger Games would exist. And I really enjoyed, like, the political commentary that was in this novel, although definitely not quite as strong as like a reading experience, I think, as the original Hunger Games. It is quite long, and it really feels like two novels in one. Like, it takes a while to get through. It's still, like, truly amazing. Suzanne Collins is a queen. Next, I read The Right Move by Liz Tomforde. This is, like, people's, like, favorite book in the Windy City series. This one we are following, it's a sequel-ish. It's, like, a connected standalone. You can read this one without the first one. But it's following, like, sports in Chicago. This one we're following a basketball player who is the brother of the heroine from our last novel, and he winds up getting a new roommate because it's his sister's friend. As a favor to his sister, he decides to let his sister friend move in with him, and he's like very rigid, very uptight. He is like the captain of the basketball team. I don't know, he's like a big deal in the basketball world, and he's like very rigid about that. And he's had some women kind of like try to take advantage of him in the past, so he's very closed off. And she's kind of like the opposite. She's like loves color and is flighty and like reads romance novels and is like fluffy, and is out of a break. She like needed to move in with him because she just had a terrible breakup. I think an engagement where her fiance was cheating on her, and so it's about them. It's cute. It was a good time. I didn't find it like incredibly memorable, but I had like a good time while I was reading it. Okay. December started out with me reading the entire Hunger Games trilogy. That's right. I read 1, 2, and 3. And if you are tuned in, you know in my favorites video, I said Mockingjay was one of my favorite books of the year. And I really found that true. I like read Hunger Games and I was like, wow, this book is amazing. Like, it really holds up. I read it when I was in high school. I read it like as the books were coming out. Like, girly was on top of it. I was reading this, and I think they're incredibly compelling. You can tell they were written for a teen audience because they read very quickly. And we don't spend a lot of time lingering on any like emotional. We're not here for like deep emotional musings on like what it means to be a person. It is very much the definition of like show, note, tell, I think. But oh God, it's good. Like, it's truly amazing. I think the books get better as I was reading it now. I think Mockingjay is my favorite, then Catching Fire, then Hunger Games. But like, they are all incredibly gripping reads. I think the characters are fascinating. I think what it says about us as a people and what it says about like cultures and societies and politics is just absolutely fantastic, and like was well worth the reread as an adult. Like, I loved it. I cried multiple times in the last book. I cried so hard I thought I was going to throw up. Like, I sobbed in that last book. I just think they're like truly stunning and like will be studied and read for generations. Like, truly a classic, a modern classic, like that deserves all the acclaim it got. Then I read The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana. This is a book that I have like physically had on my TBR forever. I actually, like, in my story graph, I've been keeping track of like my current reads. And this one, it says 217 days to read because it took me most of the year. I picked it up and then put it down and then picked it up and then put it down. I brought it with me to London and then I put it down. And it's not anything, I don't know. I just was like never in the right headspace to read this book. And I finally actually sat down and read it. I loved it. It was so cute. It gives very much House and Cerulean Sea vibes, but we are following this witch. And in this world, witches cannot hang out with other witches. Like, it draws too much attention to them. So witches kind of have to isolate themselves and they don't interact with other witches very often. And also, because of some curse or something, we don't exactly know why, witches are almost always orphans. Like, their parents die pretty quickly after they are born. So they're very isolated. But this witch finds out, is hired actually off of Instagram to come to this house where 3 young witches are living together, which is like unheard of. And she's hired to help them, to teach them how to like control their magic so they can like live in the world and not like go out and do things. Cause like if they don't have a control of their magic will kind of like explode out of them. It's very like early Harry Potter books, if you know, where he like, the young witches can't control their magic. It comes out in bursts when they're like feeling very emotional. And so she like comes to take care of them. These sisters are like adopted sisters. They're not biological sisters. And they're taken care of by this like librarian that lives at this house. And also like, I think there's like 4 or 5 adult people that are taking care of these 3 girls. And it's very sweet. And it's very like, all of it's found family because none of them are like biologically related. And it's just like, wholesome and cozy. And we love it. And by we love it, I mean I loved it. We're almost at the end of the year. Right after Christmas, I wanted just like a cozy read. I was up at a cabin in the mountains with my family. I wanted a read I could get through really quickly. I woke up really early before everyone else one morning and absolutely devoured None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. Definitely my favorite thriller of the year. Just like really propulsive, really page-turnery, and like something completely different. We're following these 2 young women. Well, they're not that young. I think they're 45. We're following these 2 women who wind up bumping into each other in this restaurant bathroom on both of their birthdays. They're birthday twins. It's their 45th birthday. This gives a great opportunity for me to talk about my birthday twin, who is Phoebe Bridgers. Exciting. They bump into each other in the bathroom. One of them is like successful. She's married to like a very rich husband. She has like 2 young kids. She is running like a podcast that's doing like well-ish, where she studies other successful women and interviews them. And she's like living a like very aspirational sort of life. And then this other woman is also 45, but she had kids very, very young, so her kids are grown. One is still living with her. One has moved out. Her husband is much, much older than her. There's like a very creepy little age gap between them. They're kind of poor. She is working a job like as a seamstress that she doesn't really love. And she is trying to convince the girl who has a podcast that her next podcast should be about her, because she's decided she's going to turn her life around and make something of her life. She like has kind of let her life pass her by, and now she's going to turn it around. And it is about this like tenuous friendship that's struck up between these 2 as they explore the woman who is living like the less desirable life, as they kind of explore her past and how she ended up where she is. It was so twisty, so turny, so grippy, so fun, and just like so different, which is like something that I really look for in a thriller. I want something that is like unexpected, and this was such a fascinating and different premise than anything else I'd ever read. And then finally, last but certainly not least, I read Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. This is a like classic children's book. I have never read it, but I read it because Never by Jessa Hastings came out at the end of December, and I plan on reading that because I'm a Magnolia Parks super fan. So of course I'm going to read Jessa's next stuff as well. And she recommended reading this if you hadn't. I listened to the audiobook. It's narrated by Jim Dale, who does the American versions of the Harry Potter book audiobooks, and it was fantastic. It was really a fun, like quick read. I think it was like a 5-hour audiobook. I was like obsessed with it for like the first half, and then the second half we're introduced to essentially like in Neverland, the like very racist stereotyping of like Native Americans. And that made me like quite uncomfortable. Like it totally makes sense for historically when this was written, but was jarring to read as a modern day lady living in 2023. But was the story was like so fun and so whimsical and so interesting, and definitely like has darker tones than the like movie, but was fascinating. But that is something to be like aware of if you are gonna jump into this book, is that like this book was written in like 1905, and you can tell, and not in a fun way. So do be aware of that. I have not read Never yet. I have started it, but I haven't actually like really gotten into Never yet, but that should be coming in the next few months. I know there's been like a lot of conversation around that online, and I'm definitely gonna read it. I'm excited. I love Magnolia Parks, and I love romantasy, so like obviously I'm gonna be reading Never. Okay, there we are. Now we're all on the same page. My goal for this year is to read 150 books, so hopefully I'll be coming to you with monthly wrap-ups this year because I'll be reading enough to warrant them. Last year I only read 75 books, so there were a lot of months where I had only read like 3 or 4 books, and honestly that doesn't warrant a video. But I do love these videos. They're one of my favorite things to like read and keep up on, or to watch and keep up on. So hopefully if I keep to my reading goal, you'll be seeing these a little bit more regularly because I'll have more books to talk about. But regardless, I will see you soon with another video. Have a good one. Bye.